What's good, everybody? It's the Real AG here, back at you again on the Lockdown Defense Sports Network. And we got week one of this 2025 free agency frenzy in the books for the NFL. We had a lot of big signings, a lot of players getting their Brinks truck backed up, and a lot of exciting moves for the teams across the whole league. But with week one in the books and the initial wave passing through town, I figure it's the best time to kind of recap the week and talk about, the best and worst fits of the week one free agency period. So let's just get right into it, ladies and gentlemen, with my five best fits for the free agency signings we saw here in the initial wave. Number one, and again, these aren't in really any particular order. I will preface that. But number one on the list here, I got Josh Sweat. Going from the Philadelphia Eagles to the Arizona Cardinals, signed for 4 years, $76.1 million, 41 million guaranteed. But the Cardinals, outside of a lot of needs, I mean, they definitely had a glaring need of needing to upgrade their edge rush or just their pass rush overall. They, like I said, they have for quite some time. But grabbing this edge rush presence like Josh Sweat, to me, is the perfect move to accomplish that and bring that to their team. Sweat led the Eagles with 8 sacks this last regular season, and he kind of added on to that with a stellar, postseason run that ended in the Super Bowl. I'll give him their praise, but he had 6 tackles and 2.5 sacks in the 2024 postseason. So you look at his stats, that's there, and then you consider that you're reuniting him with his former Philly DC and Gannon, and you look at what Sweat did with Gannon. Gannon helped him get to a Pro Bowl season in 2021, and he had a career high 11 sacks in 2022. So, I think a perfect fit for what Gannon does, reunites him with a guy he knows he can get stuff out of, and a good move for Arizona overall. So number 2 on my list here, I got Dre Greenlaw, going from the San Francisco 49ers in a total purge for that team to the Denver Broncos. And as much as it does pain me to give the Broncos some praise for a signing, in my book, this is a great signing. Ultimately signed for 3 years, $35 million, reported $20 million guaranteed. Certainly a risky move given his injury history. I mean, the guy played a grand total of 34 snaps, coming off of an Achilles injury last season. But, in my mind, this is a low risk, high reward signing for the Broncos because, prior to his injury, Greenlaw was, one of the top linebackers in the NFL. And it was pivot when he went down in that Super Bowl for San Francisco. You could tell, I mean, that was a huge loss for them in that game. And pre-injury, Greenlaw is the exact type of patrolling linebacker that Denver, needed to bolster this pretty much already elite defense. And just get a guy that's a seeker in the run game, as well as a premier coverage linebacker when healthy. So you can certainly have your doubts with the injury history, but you can't really doubt what Greenlaw has put on film when he's out there. So again, low risk, high reward signing for the Broncos, and I think a perfect move to bolster their defense. Number 3 on this list, I had to include one, guys. Come on. But we got Jalen Moore, again, offensive tackle, going from San Francisco to Kansas City, signed for 2 years, $30 million, $21.2 million guaranteed. But, all in all, Jalen Moore is an ultimate, immediate upgrade for what Kansas City had at left tackle last year. And that's not saying a whole lot. Praise to Joe Thuney, but he is a guard. So I'm not including him when I say that. But, he's Jalen Moore, speaking of Jalen Moore, he's been a proven commodity at left tackle when he's out there, but he hasn't really been given the chance to truly shine in San Francisco, playing behind the GOAT of left tackles in Trent Williams. So, exciting to give him not too much money, didn't make him like the highest paid tackle or anything. You get an upgrade at left tackle. You get a competent option that can come in and come out if need be, playing behind Trent Williams. And just looking at Jalen Moore's last 3 seasons, he played roughly 700 snaps at left tackle. Allowed 4 sacks, 0 penalties, And, his PFF pass block grade last year for 2024 was a 73, which is higher than any Chiefs offensive tackle in the last 2 seasons. So, for 21 guaranteed money, not a bad signing and a great move for Kansas City. Number 4 on this list, I got Jonathan Allen, getting cut by the Commanders and, ultimately ended up in Minnesota. Signed a 3-year, $51 million deal with 31.2 guaranteed. But, he is coming off of a serious injury this last season, but before that, and really for a long period of time, Jonathan Allen has been one of the top 3 tech defensive tackles in the league. And, the Vikings definitely had a huge need at the interior of their defensive line. And you could tell they knew that. I mean, they scooped him up pretty damn quick once he hit the open market, and this move's only going to further bolster a pretty stellar defensive unit in Minnesota. And just looking at what Jonathan Allen brings to the table, healthy Jonathan Allen. You look at the Vikings defense that's not going to really have to rely on creating pressure through the blitz like they had, in 2024, because Josh Allen over his last 3 seasons. He's had a 12.7 pressure rate and gotten 27 sacks, at that 3 tech spot. So, again, he is coming back from a decently serious injury, but kind of like Greenlaw. I mean, it's a low risk, high reward, because if you get anything like pre-injury Jonathan Allen, like that is money well spent for the Minnesota Vikings. And then to round out my best signings or best fits for this first wave, I got Robert Spillane going from the Las Vegas Raiders to the New England Patriots. And some of you may think, like, what the hell am I talking about putting Spillane on here? But just hear me out. He signed 3-year, $33 million deal, $20.6 million guaranteed. But, first and foremost, Spillane is just a hard-nosed, kind of old-school middle linebacker that, in my mind, just from watching him, outsider looking in, doesn't do anything overly flashy or overly special, but just, watches film, knows where he needs to be and is able to execute a lot of the time. So, someone like that, a linebacker like that, I think is a perfect fit for a Vrabel defense and, a New England team that is seriously trying to rebuild a culture. Couple that with not only mentioning the guy is a tackling machine. I mean, he had 148 tackles in 2023 and 158 in 2024. I think that is money well spent for New England to get a good locker room guy and just a veteran, damn near elite presence, in your linebacker room and at the heart of your defense. So, as we always got to do, we got to take the good with the bad. So we spent our time talking about the good signings. Let's get into the worst fits, our worst signings. And first and foremost on this list, I got Sam Darnold, going from the Minnesota Vikings to the Seattle Seahawks. Signed a 3-year, $100.5 million deal with $55 million guaranteed. Like, some of you I know love this move. I do not. I get what Seattle's trying to do. I get that they wanted to get younger. I understand that Geno didn't want to take less money, but that doesn't mean that I gotta love the move that they did. Like, I think Seattle ultimately, I mean, really any team that signed Darnold, I think got fooled by the 1 year he put in Minnesota in a pretty, basically the cushiest situation a QB could be in to try to restart their career. And, I think chasing fool's gold a little bit, and giving him money and thinking that he's going to do the same things, in Seattle. Like, you can certainly appreciate that it didn't overpay Darnold, but I think, in my eyes, he is a downgrade from Geno Smith, and all that Seattle did in accompanying the Sam Darnold move was downgrade their offense. I mean, he's going from an offense with, Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson, elite play caller, and Kevin O'Connell. And then you got Jordan Addison, and then he's going to Seattle, who, a little bit unproven on the offensive side of the ball and just got rid of their best receiver. So situations aren't aligning. I don't like the move for Seattle or for Sam Darnold. Number 2 on this list, I got Dan Moore Jr., offensive tackle, going from Pittsburgh to the Tennessee Titans. I think Pittsburgh was even glad to get him out of there. He signed a 4-year, $82 million deal with 50 mil guaranteed. Everyone knows Tennessee's rebuilding. Everyone knows Tennessee has offensive line issues. Tennessee evidently knows that, and they responded to those 2024 woes by making Dan Moore Jr., a top 10 paid offensive tackle in the league by salary. I think all that I need to say is Dan Moore Jr. is making more than Lane Johnson. Come on. But, I think that they just overpaid, fell victim to who was available, and, made a guy that worth that money when the numbers don't add up. I mean, to his credit, he's always been a guy that Pittsburgh has gone to, so the durability's there. But he's coming off of his best season. But ultimately, he still gave up 12 sacks and 41 QB pressures last season. So those are just not trustworthy numbers to shell out that kind of dough and think that you got a franchise left tackle coming in the building. So we'll see with Tennessee. Number 3 on this list, I got Chase Young returning or re-signing with New Orleans after hitting the free agency market. Signed a 3-year, $51 million deal. Could not really find any specifics on the guarantees, but man, just talk about a guy that keeps getting money and keeps getting contracts. I think based off of aura alone. In my opinion, Chase Young has not really done anything to live up to the first round. Early first round pick hype that Washington spent on him. Washington got rid of him. San Francisco didn't want him back. And hell, he even went viral at times, I think, in San Francisco and New Orleans for just his lack of effort on the field. So, with looking at New Orleans, I just don't understand a team with so many financial issues and not really being right there at competing to shell out that kind of money for a guy who, doesn't even give you effort the whole game. and essentially is just mid. He's a mid edge rusher at best. That's Chase Young, number 3. Number 4, I got Paulson Adebo going from New Orleans to the New York Giants. I know some people have lauded this move. I'm not one of them, and I will tell you why. Ultimately signed a 3-year, $54 million deal with $38.5 million guarantee, which is baffling in of its own right because that's basically the same type of money they were not willing to pay Saquon, but then they're willing to pay, Adebo here, who's coming off of a season-ending injury. And I will give the guy his praise. He's had 10 interceptions, through 4 years in New Orleans, and even had 3 last year before he got hurt. But that's just, I don't get paying that kind of money, paying that kind of guaranteed money, for a guy that's coming off an injury and for a team that, already has so many other issues. But hey, it is the Giants. So, they do what they do. And to round things out, I put Javonte Williams on here, and I'll tell you why. He went from the Denver Broncos to the Dallas Cowboys. I know you're thinking hey, Alex, this was not even, they didn't pay him that much money. They didn't. They signed him 1 year, $3 million deal. But the reason I put him on here is because I just know, and, maybe for Dallas fans' sakes, I hope that I'm wrong, but I just know that Jerry Jones, this is Jerry's grand plan to fix the running back situation. He let Rico Dowdle walk, who was the one shining light, albeit a small glimmer for him last year, and signed Javonte Williams. I think that, they're not going to draft a running back early or try to supplement that need with the draft, and they're going to end up relying on this injury-riddled Javonte Williams to be their running back, their bell cow running back. That is just, I could see the writing on the wall, and that's why I had to put Javonte Williams on this list. But ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up my week 1 recap with the best fits signings and worst fits and signings, for these teams across the NFL. Please be sure to like the video below, hit that little subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the great content we're dropping through this offseason and into the regular season. Please find us on social media, and don't be afraid to hit a comment below to let me know your thoughts. Until next time, peace.